The Switch and Switch 2 are absolutely loaded with RPGs right now, and honestly, it's kind of insane. We're talking card battles, Souls-like beasts, JRPG legends, and one of the greatest games ever made coming back from the dead. Let's count them down. Culdcept Begins. Picture this. Monopoly had a baby with Magic the Gathering and raised it in a fantasy world. That's basically Culdcept Begins. It's a board game where you roll dice to move around a map, claim territories by placing creature cards on them, and then defend those territories in card-based battles. You build a custom deck of over 400 cards, creatures, spells, and items, and every match plays out differently depending on how your strategy clicks together. The story follows a kid named Kamor, who gets accepted into the Royal Sept Academy on the continent of Bavrashka, a land created by the gods. He's recognized for some serious latent talent and joins the Royal Scepter Guard, right as a shadowy faction starts scheming to resurrect a sealed god and throw the whole world into chaos. It's the first new Culdcept game in 10 years, built for newcomers, but deep enough to swallow veterans whole. Tales of Eternia originally dropped on the original PlayStation back in 2000, and now it's finally getting a proper remaster for a whole new audience. You play as Reed Herschel, a laid-back young fighter from a remote village called Brashines, who stumbles into something way bigger than he ever expected. When he and his childhood friend Farah encounter a mysterious girl named Meredy, who speaks a totally unknown language, everything changes. Two worlds exist in this universe: Inferia, which sits below, and Celestia, which floats above it like a second sky, and they're on a collision course. This event is called the Grand Fall, and if nobody stops it, both worlds get wiped out. The gameplay is classic Tales real-time action combat, where you run around the battlefield, chain attacks, and use Arte's special abilities tied to elemental Kraemels, which are basically summonable spirits. Atelier Karia is a direct sequel to Atelier Umia, set 2 years after those events on the same continent of Aladis. You play as Karia, who wakes up with no memory of who she is. She's part of a pioneering team exploring ruins when she falls into a hidden underground world beneath the surface, discovers a massive alchemy cauldron, and encounters the craft of alchemy for the very first time. Her party includes Servio, a biologist labeled a heretic for going off book, and Fina, a sharp fighter. Yumiya herself shows up as a mentor figure, guiding Karia through what alchemy can do. The gameplay is built around a hybrid battle system, real-time combat, where you parry incoming attacks on reflex, but you can pause time to queue up skills and items from a command menu. And here's the really cool hook. Karia can eat ingredients she finds in the world to trigger effects, like literally growing animal ears if she eats animal-based components. For the first time ever, Lies of P is landing on a Nintendo platform. If you missed it when it launched in 2023, this is one of the best Souls-like games made by a studio that wasn't From Software. It's a dark retelling of Pinocchio set in the city of Krat, a Belle Epoque-styled world that's completely fallen apart. Mechanical puppets have gone haywire, monsters roam the streets, and you play as P. Geppetto's puppet fighting through it all, trying to find your creator while uncovering the truth about what destroyed the city. The combat is built around parrying. You can block attacks to reduce damage, but perfectly timing your guard deflects them entirely and staggers enemies, opening them up for big punishments. Weapons are split into blades and handles that you can mix and match, letting you build something that fits exactly how you want to play. The Complete Edition bundles in the Overture DLC prequel expansion, which adds new story content set in an earlier version of Krat. Team Ninja is back in the Three Kingdoms, and they've leveled everything up. Wo Long 2: Wings of Ember is the sequel to 2023's Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, a game that pulled in over 5 million players, and it picks up in the same demon-infested version of the late Eastern Han period. You play as a nameless warrior, described as a phoenix rising from the fires of war, fighting across sprawling battlefields overrun by monsters and powerful warlords, alongside legendary historical heroes. The first game was already a tight action RPG, built around Chinese martial arts, deflections, and morale, a system where dealing damage and pulling off precise moves raised your battle spirit, which in turn boosted your attack power and unlocked stronger moves. Wo Long 2 refines and expands all of that, with new defensive techniques, a deeper deflect system, and new abilities layered into what already felt satisfying. Final Fantasy Resonance. Square Enix took the beloved mobile game Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, stripped out every single gacha mechanic and microtransaction, rebuilt the whole thing as a standalone console RPG, and gave it HD 2D visuals, the same gorgeous pixel art style from Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy. The result is the very first HD 2D Final Fantasy, and it looks stunning. The story follows Reed, his adoptive brother Laswell, and a crystal-bound maiden named Fina, as they fight to protect the world of Lapis from the villainous Veritas of the Dark and the Sworn Six of Palladia, who are trying to destroy the 8 elemental crystals that keep the world alive. The battle system is classic turn-based combat, modernized with a stagger mechanic. Hit enemies with their weaknesses to build up a meter, stagger them for bonus turns and massive damage. Then, pull off resonance attacks, which are cinematic special moves unique to each Vision character. Final Fantasy VII Revelation is the third and last part of the remake trilogy, and for the first time, all platforms, including Switch, to get it on day one simultaneously. Cloud and the crew are carrying the weight of grief after the events of Rebirth, and Sephiroth is closer than ever to ascending to something like godhood. The party takes to the skies aboard the airship Highwind, and the entire planet is now open to explore. You can literally fly anywhere and parachute down to land wherever you want, seamlessly transitioning from air to ground. With meteor descending and enormous weapons unleashing destruction across the world, you have to decide where to go, who to help, and in what order. Two massive new playable characters join the roster. Vincent Valentine, the fast, gunslinging brawler with terrifying bestial transformations, and Cid Highwind, the cantankerous pilot who fights with brutal lance strikes. Forge of the Fae is a pixel art RPG set in a world inspired by 1800s Ireland, where humans and Fae exist in a fragile tension that's starting to crack. You play as Fiora, a young inventor trying to uncover the truth behind a series of mysterious disappearances in a mining town, while a workers' strike rages and people keep vanishing with no explanation. The atmosphere is thick with Celtic folklore, mysterious beings, ancient powers waking up, and a world that feels genuinely dangerous in a quiet, creepy way. Combat is turn-based, with strategy playing a big role through the Arc Crystal system, which lets you customize and channel magical abilities in ways that keep battles feeling fresh. There's also an adrenaline mechanic that adds a layer of risk-reward to fights. Puzzles scattered throughout the world reward exploration with powerful items and hidden lore. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is set in the Dagdon Empire, a prosperous kingdom ruled by gods for 1,500 years. The capital city of Daxian hosts an event called the Heroic Games, a grand tournament where the winner gets one wish granted, no questions asked. That brings together four very different heroes. Kai, a boy who needs to win to free his imprisoned father. Dietrich, a swordsman addicted to finding stronger opponents. Theodora, a queen trying to fulfill a long-held dream for her homeland. And Lita, a musician consumed by revenge. You pick your protagonist and follow their path through the tournament. No rest for the wicked. Moon Studios made Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps, two of the most beautiful platformers ever made. Now they've swung completely in the opposite direction with No Rest for the Wicked, a dark, brutal action RPG with combat that hits like a Souls-like and visuals that look like someone painted Caravaggio's darkest work and made it playable. You play as a Serum, a member of a holy order with mysterious powers, sent to the island of Isola Sacra to stop the spread of the pestilence, an ancient plague consuming everything it touches. The island is already in political chaos, and you're arriving into the middle of it. Combat is weighty, stamina-based, and fully intentional. Every swing matters, every roll counts, and the game wants you to think before you attack. The 1.0 release is massive. Over 60 hours of new content, a new horde mode, a completely redesigned class system, co-op multiplayer, and PvP. The Duskbloods. From Software, the team behind Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring, built this game specifically for the Switch 2, and it's their first Nintendo exclusive since 2003. The Duskbloods is a PvPvE multiplayer action RPG for up to 8 players, set at the twilight of humanity, where something called the First Blood has begun to flow, and locations across time and space are colliding. You choose from over a dozen bloodsworn, vampire-like warriors with unique weapons, abilities, and lore, and compete in matches across maps, pulling from Gothic and Victorian aesthetics. The game has both player versus player and player versus environment gameplay, with random world events shifting the rules mid-match. Hidetaka Miyazaki is directing, and he said this is From Software's most ambitious and time-consuming project yet, even more so than Elden Ring. Monster Hunter Wilds launched on other platforms in February 2025 and sold massive numbers, and now Capcom has officially confirmed it's coming to Switch 2. No release date yet, but it's in development, and the Monster Hunter series has an enormous fanbase on Nintendo hardware, going back through Rise and World. Wilds is set in a mysterious region called the Forbidden Lands, a living ecosystem where the environment shifts dramatically between lush, resource-rich seasons and brutal, harsh ones, and monsters adapt their behavior to match. You're part of a research commission sent to investigate, alongside a colorful cast including your Palico partner, handler Alma, Smithy Gemma, and a mysterious child named Nada. The hunting action has never felt more fluid. You can now ride the Secret, an agile new mount, to traverse terrain and even sharpen your weapons while on the move. You can carry 2 weapons and swap between them mid-hunt. Dragon Quest XII has had a rough road. Originally announced years ago as The Flames of Fate, development hit serious problems, and Square Enix scrapped everything and started completely from scratch. The game was renamed Dragon Quest XII Beyond Dreams on Dragon Quest Day 2026, the series' 40th anniversary, and came with the first in-development gameplay footage and a new protagonist design. Series creator Yuji Horii and executive producer Yosuke Saito shared messages directly about the direction, and what we've seen looks like a significant visual and mechanical leap for the franchise. The setting and full story haven't been revealed yet, but the footage showed a brand new hero and a world with multiple biomes, including tropical coasts and deserts, suggesting a large open landscape. Character designs from the late Akira Toriyama are still part of the game. Lords of the Fallen 2 is making history by being the first game in the franchise to ever land on a Nintendo platform. Built in Unreal Engine 5 with Nanite and Lumen technology, the Switch 2 version targets a stable 30 frames per second in both handheld and docked mode, and early reports from the developer suggest it's running well. The story is set a century after the first game, so you don't need prior knowledge to jump in. You're stepping into the realms of Axiom, the world of the living, and Umbral, the world of the dead. And the Umbral lamp lets you shift between them to solve puzzles, find hidden paths, and uncover things invisible to living eyes. Combat in the sequel is faster and more vicious than before, with brutal executions, expanded abilities, actual dismemberment, and a more dynamic enemy roster spread across biome-specific factions. Boss fights are more complex and reactive. Dragon's Dogma 2 is one of the most unique action RPGs Capcom has made, and it's finally coming to Switch, too, as the Dark Arisen edition, the complete package, with the base game and a massive new expansion included in one bundle. The core game drops you into the role of the Arisen, a hero whose heart has been literally stolen by a dragon, who must journey through a sprawling open world to get it back and claim the throne. You're joined by pawns, AI companions you can design and hire, and other players' pawns who come in from online, each with their own personality and capabilities that make the party feel alive. Combat is physics-based and tactile. You can climb monsters, grapple onto them, target specific body parts, and get thrown halfway across the map. The vocations, classes like Warrior, Mage, Archer, Mystic Spearhand, each play completely differently. Pokémon Winds and Pokémon Waves are 2 versions releasing simultaneously, set in a tropical archipelago region inspired by Southeast Asia. The world is built around a sprawling island chain with open ocean between them, underwater areas you can actually explore, and an ecosystem that feels deeply connected to nature and weather. The 3 starters are Brout, a grass-type bean chick, Pombone, a fire-type puppy, and Gekwa, a water-type gecko, and all 3 look like they have wild evolution potential. The region's lore is tied to the forces of wind and water, with legendary Pokémon tied to each version. Open-world exploration is a core part of the experience, building on what Scarlet and Violet started, but with noticeably better visuals and performance. Game Freak has been given more development time than usual on this one, and from the footage shown at the 30th Anniversary Pokémon Presents, it shows. Elden Ring is finally on Switch 2. The game that sold over 30 million copies, earned over 400 Game of the Year nominations, and became one of the defining games of its generation, is landing on Nintendo hardware this August. The Tarnished edition bundles the complete base game and the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion, plus new exclusive content that's also dropping as paid DLC on other platforms. That includes 2 new starting classes, 4 new armor sets with unique melee weapons, and 3 new appearances for Torrent, your faithful horse. The base game puts you in the lands between, a broken world where the Elden Ring, the source of order, has been shattered, and every major faction is at war over the pieces. You're a Tarnished, a disgraced warrior called back to put it all together and become Elden Lord. The Shadow of the Erdtree expansion takes you to the realm of Shadow, following in the footsteps of Miquella into a land with new bosses, weapons, abilities, and story. Metaphor, ReFantazio. Nintendo players have been waiting, and November 12th is when that wait ends. From the creators of Persona 3, 4, and 5, Metaphor takes everything that made those games great and builds it into an original fantasy world. The kingdom is in chaos after its king is murdered, and a bizarre curse has been placed on the throne. Only the person who can defeat a monster terrorizing the land will be allowed to rule. You and your companions enter this contest, traveling across a world that's gripped by fear and anxiety. The archetype system is the big hook. Mechanically, think job classes, but earned through genuine emotional growth. Each party member can unlock different archetypes by overcoming their personal fears, and swapping and combining them in battle creates a deep, strategic layer of combat that blends turn-based and real-time action. Xenoblade Genesis drops the Chronicles name and takes the series somewhere completely new. A massive world called Anshar, warmed by 6 suns, built inside the hollow interior of a colossal sphere. The story centers on Eleanor, a young woman training to become a Veseli, a warrior class who wields the power of anima, a force that flows through the world and gets channeled through artifacts called anima Chrystones embedded in weapons. There's a military academy called Lukos at the heart of the story, and early trailer footage shows a mix of intense action, sweeping open landscapes curving upward toward a central light source, and the kind of cinematic ambition Monolith Soft has been building toward for years. Combat appears to carry forward the real-time JRPG style the series is known for, but the anima system promises something new in terms of how powers are unlocked and used. The greatest game ever made is coming back. Ocarina of Time, the Nintendo 64 classic that holds a 99 on Metacritic and changed how 3D adventure games work forever, is being rebuilt as a full remake exclusively for Switch 2. Nintendo called it Reborn, not Remastered, and a description found on Nintendo's own store page promises stunning visuals, updated designs, and timeless gameplay. The story is the same iconic journey. Link, a boy without a fairy who grows up among the Kokiri, receives a call to destiny, receives his fairy companion Navi, and sets out from the forest into Hyrule to stop Ganondorf from seizing the Sacred Realm and the Triforce. He travels through time, young and adult, solving dungeons, learning songs on the Ocarina, forging the Master Sword, and confronting the King of Evil in a battle that defines the fate of Hyrule. The 2011 3DS remake was excellent, but this is bigger. 20 games, 1 list, and honestly, we barely scratched the surface of what's coming. Whether you're into tactical strategy, Souls-like pain, classic JRPGs, or one of the most legendary games ever made coming back better than ever, the Switch and Switch 2 are delivering. Drop in the comments what you're most hyped about. See you next time.